Okay, welcome. My name is Jeremy Ferragama and I run the application security program at FINRA. Today I'm going to be co-presenting with Kalan Bandero, who also goes by BK and is our primary SD Elements administrator. I'm going to give you a quick overview about FINRA and a little insight into the history of how our program evolved and how we're currently leveraging SD Elements. And then BK is going to cover how we ultimately heavily customize our instance of SD Elements, both inside and out, and a few related metrics. So for those of you that aren't familiar with FINRA, otherwise known as the Financial Industry Regulatory Authority, we're a not-for-profit that is dedicated to investor protection and market integrity. We regulate one critical part of the securities industry, brokerage firms doing business with the public in the United States. FINRA is authorized by Congress to protect America's investors by making sure the broker-dealer industry operates fairly and honestly. We oversee about 3,500 brokerage firms and nearly 625,000 registered securities representatives across the country. FINRA processes 71.5 billion market transactions on average every day to build a complete holistic picture of market trading in the United States. We use innovative machine learning technologies to keep a close eye on the market and provide essential support to investors, regulators, policymakers, and other stakeholders. FINRA has had a variety of progressively improving methodologies to help determine applicable security requirements for application teams over the years. I'm going to cover the key milestones where that capability at FINRA evolved, a few relevant and comparative metrics about each solution, and a bit of a deeper dive when we get to SD Elements in terms of how we approach that rollout specifically. Although there were some less formalized approaches to this problem that dated back to 2005 at FINRA, we started down the path of a more structured means to provide tailored app-centric requirements in 2008. This iteration was provided to us by a third party, and it had a lot of overhead with little to no actionable guidance in the first deliverable. We had only one engineer dedicated to this and minimal portfolio coverage, so inevitably we wanted to find a more efficient solution to the problem to get better guidance and broader and more frequent coverage of our portfolio. So in 2011, we completely revamped the process to be more efficient and effective and to draw heavily from industry sources like CWE and OWASP Top 10. This was an internal proprietary hybrid of architectural analysis, unique asset identification with data protection planning by environment, and characteristic-based threat modeling. Characteristic-based threat modeling was a term we used internally as it leveraged characteristics of the application, mapped them to corresponding weaknesses and their recommended countermeasures in order to help get to more actionable guidance. We actually had built a custom rule engine to help make sure that that whole process was consistent at the time, not too dissimilar to how SD Elements does it. We also introduced the idea of tailored latent risk ratings based upon the exposure type and data classification of each system. This helped app teams with subsequent grooming activities. Our team grew slightly, and with the enhancements in the new process, we were able to increase our coverage to approximately 4 times the applications over each 2-year period. Unfortunately, our 2011 variant still required subject matter expertise to execute end-to-end with a series of app and business stakeholder interviews, meaning that our resources became the bottleneck. Over the years, that shifting subject matter expert priorities, such as data protection and cloud security initiatives, further eroded how much time we could dedicate to this effort. That coupled with an ever-increasing application portfolio and a desire to get more frequent early insights into security requirements had us seeking a replacement again. Between 2017 and 2018, we evaluated build versus buy and landed on SD Elements, which was the favored solution amongst participating app teams in the pre-purchase pilot. This period covered solution evaluation, procurement, and initial setup. By this stage, FINRA was undergoing a cloud-first initiative, and so an on-premises deployment wasn't an option. But instead, we evaluated deploying SDE's AWS image within a FINRA-owned and operated VPC. However, we had started shifting our portfolio towards ECS, and a fully supported Dockerized variant wasn't available at the time. Ultimately, we evaluated and settled on the SaaS deployment, which comes with the inherent benefit of minimizing infrastructure overhead on FINRA, such as some of the monitoring, patching, and backup and recovery. In 2019, after authentication was set up, we quickly hit a few scenarios that drove us towards the decision to fully customize our deployment, which again, BK will be covering shortly. Subsequent to initial customization, we conducted a limited pilot to collect and incorporate usability feedback from a core representation of our target user base. Wherever we hit a scenario that we perceived to be a limitation, based upon our preferred use cases, and weren't able to get on the near-term SD Elements product roadmap, we built our own workaround that either wrapped the SDE UI via Selenium scripts or SDE API via Python scripts. Finally, we collaboratively formalized a new secure software development lifecycle at FINRA, which would ultimately become the foundation for a complete revamp of our AppSec governance package the following year. The net effect of this initial rollout is that we empowered the app community to obtain self-service security requirements, dropped the level of effort to obtain those tailored requirements to about 15 to 30 minutes, and we moved away from paper-based reports as the primary deliverable. Although policy hadn't yet changed the scope or frequency of threat modeling activities, we were encouraging teams to use SD Elements as part of their regular release planning. For the first 3 quarters of 2020, we continued to improve the usability of our variant of SD Elements, the supporting materials like the self-help wiki, and our ever-evolving inventory of custom utilities. We completely revamped our AppSec governance package in alignment with the newly established SSDLC. This minimally included requirements for a new portfolio risk rating methodology and threat modeling, both of which required frequent use of SD Elements across the portfolio. For the remainder of 2020 through 2021 Q1, we drove an SD Elements onboarding campaign that included a brown bag and direct engagement workshops with the vast majority of TPMs. Additionally, we expanded our outreach and self-help utilities further with a monthly security digest containing customized status for each app stakeholder and top-down portfolio review meetings with tech VPs. This outreach and the simplicity of our new self-help SDE portal helped us onboard all non-SaaS applications, greater than 250 in total, and a good chunk of our SaaS footprint. We'll get into a few rollout metrics a bit later, but the key point is that in approximately 6 months after our revamped AppSec policy went live, FINRA fully achieved the objective of baselining all non-SaaS applications to SDE, and we're well on our way to complete portfolio coverage. In 2021 Q2, we continue to evolve our approach to focus on the maintenance aspect. So we started expanding this status update into technology account manager-centric portfolio review meetings and started including SDE-centric activity status and critical latent risk tasks in our security dashboards. We also collaboratively incorporated status into other AppSec, SDET, and security champion touchpoints. We further expanded the capability of SD Elements to include support for the vendor management team's risk scoring of SaaS apps to help with their third-party risk assessment process. The threat modeling level 2 TML2 DFD-based process, which applies to a subset of the app portfolio, standardized around leveraging SD Elements, which is the TML1 outcomes. The key takeaway here is that with the same or less headcount dedicated to this early SSDLC activity as we had in 2011, we are now able to scale to the entire AppSec portfolio at the speed of delivery. And we're also additionally supporting greater than 150 SaaS apps at an annual cadence.
Thank you, Jeremy. Let's take a look at some of the customizations that went within the SD Elements portal, and the level of effort involved with each of those customizations. Starting with Project Survey, Because we wanted to give our users a nimble and a consistent view of the survey, also to ensure our self-help wiki, self-help documentation accurately reflects any changes with the survey, we started making a policy of all the out-the-box questions as hidden and entered a complete set of new sections, subsections, questions, and answers, matching to our tech stack with some necessary enablement rules to make it a selection-driven survey. With the long-term maintenance in view, uh, we also added a lot of implied answers to effectively tie the survey answers with knowledge base, tasks, problems, and how-tos. A section named Release Confirmation in our survey is worth highlighting because we want teams to periodically update the survey, and if the team has have no updates to make in that window, quarterly or annually, this section has a question with answers in progress and done. We flip that answer programmatically, and they flip it back at the time of the survey review. Moving to knowledge base, the overarching goal here is to only provide the tasks that are applicable to the project, actionable to the application development team, and they contain accurate data with FINRA internal references and examples. In order to achieve that, we disabled all the out-the-box content, again, tasks, problems, how-tos, cloned some of the content as custom content, layered with few additional content items, and updated applicable when rules with our implied answers. These two are the heavier end of the level of effort. On the moderate to lower end of the effort, we did some UI customizations. Project is renamed as component. A business unit is renamed as AGS tag. We added FINRA logos within the portal, and the contact us link has been changed to an internal email distribution list. The effort of suppressing out-the-box content is supported by the product update team as well, because as a new product comes in, they will have to be those content profiles that we no longer use will have to be suppressed each time there's a product update. It is worth noting, all along the way, the partnership with the support team and the customer success team at Security Compass has been phenomenal. We did some heavy lifting outside the platform as well. For scale, we have written over 100 Python scripts, most of them leveraging the SDE APIs and some using Selenium. Our approach for authorization setup is one good case to highlight, for which we had to give an end-to-end touch. So we can leverage the native LDAP sync feature within the portal and also avoid heavy maintenance burden. We'll also cover this in more detail in the following slide. Using the data from the project surveys, we've been able to classify the entire portfolio of applications, custom, COTS, and SaaS applications. Two separate logics have been implemented, one for classifying non-SaaS applications and another for SaaS applications. We take a backup of all the answers across all projects on a daily basis as a JSON file. It gives us the ability to restore any single project on a specific date. We also regularly sync with our CMDB, one for onboarding new applications, offboarding any applications that are marked as retired within CMDB, publishing the classifications that we identify onto CMDB, and also identify any discrepancies. Some metadata gets tracked in CMDB by different departments of our organization, and we cross-verify, for example, data classification, and notify to the stakeholders of the application for reconciliation efforts. Custom reporting uses a project task API. We layer in with additional internal metadata with formatting and branding that matches our internal reporting standards. And it goes without saying that most of this is achievable with the effective and reliable REST APIs made available as part of the SD Elements product. This provides a closer look at our efforts for effective authorization model. Managing entitlements manually would have drastically hindered our viability to scale the solution to the entire portfolio. That effort itself would have consumed a dedicated full-time resource. On the other hand, without effective authorization model, meaning full access to everyone, to all the business units, is a non-starter. The goal essentially is to have an auditable and dedicated authorization model following the principle of least privilege. We've approached this with 2 AD groups per business unit, one for edit and the other for read-only permissions. Matching groups are created in SDE with the LDAP group mapping or set up between them programmatically. Also, application owners will be added to each project, and any direct access grants during the project creation or application ownership changes will be reconciled on a daily basis. We partnered with our internal IAM team for initial baselining and ongoing support for creating these AD groups as new applications add in CMDB. We hit a speed bump along the way due to the lack of support for nested AD groups as part of the LDAP sync functionality. We had to cover it with by extending one of the custom utility by also mapping the nested AD groups explicitly to the SDE groups. Overall, the solution comprises of multiple custom utilities, leveraging SDE APIs and LDAP queries in order to have a seamless authorization model that's something leveraging enterprise IAM standards. Let's take a look at the rollout from architecture perspective. At a 10,000 foot level, a SaaS instance would look like this at the onset. Users or admins being able to access the portal using native user accounts. And it looks like this as we layer in configurations for authentication and authorization. Then eventually the view with remote integration agent, custom utilities, integrations with the verification tool, integrations with the tracking tool, data going into SIEM and CMDB, all coming into play. From a quantitative perspective, 90% of our portfolio has been onboarded at this point, and we're targeting 100% shortly thereafter. These numbers include the entire portfolio, meaning custom applications, COTS, open source, and SaaS applications. As we observe the trend, also to Jeremy's earlier point, as part of program evolution, we have successfully onboarded the critical mass by end of Q1 this year. The job is not done with merely the onboarding effort. The tasks generated across all projects, 2/3 of those tasks are still open at this point. And we aim to address that as a follow-on effort. Organizationally, we focus more on addressing or prioritizing active risk findings compared to latent risk findings. So we're trying to find ways to augment the manual effort for closing those tasks. One we're exploring is integration with the verification tool, checkmarks. Also, as a step, as a manual oversight through periodic pen testing efforts. With that, I'll hand it back to Jeremy.
So in conclusion, FINRA's choice to go custom is much more tailored to our portfolio and use cases. But this isn't the right approach for everyone. If you're still trying to figure out if this approach is right for you, then consider this. The key pro of implementing a fully customized third-party service like SD Elements is that you'll get a solution that is uniquely tailored to your environment, users, and needs. However, in doing so, you will orphan all native mappings, both current and future, such as training and regulation if you're using those features. This will inherently create a lot of overhead to maintain this solution. So if you don't have the manpower to support customization, then don't. If you do have the resources and interest to go this route, then make sure you're minimally doing the following. Partner with app stakeholders such as technical project managers, developers, QA testers, SDETs, and so forth to help identify their use cases and establish feedback loops for perpetually maintaining the SD Elements knowledge base and ultimately keep it relevant. Partner with your SD Elements customer success and support teams to provide feedback on issues you're facing and receive insights into potential solutions in the roadmap. We met with our representatives regularly throughout the entire rollout. Establish a plan for when to customize or not. For instance, if you're seeking SD Elements enhancements that are either not in demand by other customers or won't or can't be addressed on the product roadmap in the timeline you absolutely need it, then that's a good build your own solution candidate. Establish rigorous processes like publication review, feedback loops throughout relevant security activities, granular backup and recovery, and how you're going to approach outreach for bootstrapping and perpetual maintenance. Also, what type of supplemental tools you're going to provide your app community, such as dashboards above and beyond out-of-box capabilities. And finally, if you want to protect your investment, ensure that SD Elements becomes the one-stop shop for security requirements within your organization, then plan to prioritize the support cycles to maintain it. Okay, and now we'll field some of your questions.